Hello, and welcome to the River Cruising Masterclass. As you know, we are on a journey and we are exploring the top river cruise companies in alphabetical order. We've got 15 of them. And so far, we have done Amadeus, Ama Waterways, American Cruise Lines, Avalon, and today we are speaking about celebrity river cruises. This one is going to be a lot of information about what is out there right now because, as you know, they are not setting sail until 2027, but they have added their name to the hat of a new river cruise company to keep an eye out for. Just so we're aware of what's coming up next in this specific mini series. Sometimes I might pop some in there here or there like I did last week just because I am trying to get an episode out every week. It is more difficult than I wanted it to. We might go to every other week just as a teaser, but I am trying my hardest. Is Emerald River Cruises, Lindblad Expeditions, Riviera, Riverside, Scenic, Tauk, Trafalgar, Uniworld, Viking, and then Viva. Those are the top 15 that I'm going to be talking about. There are more, but those are the top ones. And so that's what we're going to focus on with this mini series. And so, welcome to episode number 5 of our mini series of all the river cruises, where we are going to be talking about celebrity cruises. So, celebrity is really trying to set itself as continuing to market to its original brand. So if you are someone who likes to go on celebrity ocean cruises, they are trying to target you with celebrity river cruises. So we're going to kind of break down, for example, like what sets celebrity apart. So celebrity is really trying to bring a lot of ambition of its ocean style cruising to the river. It's got a couple of patent pending ideas. It is going to be really focused on huge, large windows everywhere, built-in balconies, and an infinity pool. It's going to have, an infinity plunge pool and innovation, like it's called a magic edge, which is going to have these dining pods that are going to extend over the riverbank if they get their way. They are still in the building phases. They are building 2 boats originally. So there's going to be 2 that are going to be released in 2027. And those are going to be doing the Danube River. So who is the ideal traveler for this cruise line? If you are someone who, again, enjoys celebrity cruises, have gone on them, love the brand, hardcore brand person, you are going to love this cruise line. They have 8 restaurants on board, or restaurants and bars. So they're going to be creating little like pockets on the river cruise versus having it more expanded out. It's going to be, more of an additional way to get food. They're having like a martini bar on board and things of that nature. I'm curious how the space is going to look just because, as we know, there is not that much room on these river cruises, especially because they're going to be holding 178 people on board. So as we've talked about before, like Viking has 190 people and, Riverside has 110. And the average is about 150 for Avalon, Ama, Scenic, that sort of feel. So it is on the larger scale for how many people are on board. But that is something to think about. When we're thinking about the onboard atmosphere, it's going to be smart casual. There's going to have live, lounge music. It's going to have very modern, polished, sleek lines. It is very much focused on the ship is going to be brand new. So it's going to have a really pretty chandelier, and a crystal staircase. It's very much going to be about like opening up the spaces so that it can have all of those extra room and availability, as well as the plunge pool, which I am excited about. That sounds super cool. So, but in a trade-off, they are not having a spa on board. So that is something to think about. In terms of the accommodations on what they're planning on doing, they're going to have 5 different types of accommodations, but the one that's going to be the standout is a skylight infinity balcony suite. So what they're doing is on the top deck, or the third deck of where the actual ship is, they're going to have certain rooms that are going to have a skylight so you can see out and basically be laying in your bed, staring out and seeing, the stars if you wanted to. So it's going to have an overhead skylight, and the suite guests are going to be able to get butlers, priority bookings, the in-room minibars stocked. So there's going to be somewhere that they can elevate the service on top of having the window rooms, your standard French balcony or infinity balcony as they call it on Celebrity, your normal balcony rooms, and then your suites and things of that nature. But having the 5 different room categories is nice, and it'll be interesting to see what they look like in terms of sizing, because most of the time right now, you'll have an average of 3 to 4 room types, but they'll sell them differently because it'll be cheaper to be on the second floor, and it'll be like $100 or $200 more to be on the third floor, like if it's a balcony room. So just things like that will be interesting to see how they do things. In terms of the dining on board, they are trying to do the 8 restaurants and bars. So combined, you're going to have, as I said, the martini bar, the cafe al paseo, and they're going to be focused on access to dining all day, which is nice because some of the cruise lines don't have that ability to get those quick snacks or those quick treats. So them having focus on that is going to be really nice and something that I enjoy when I'm on the river, because sometimes I get hungry at 3:30, okay? I just got done and I will be doing a full debrief on this. I've recorded it, but I'm in our series. I just was on the Riverside cruise line for the Rhone, and the food was spectacular. It was phenomenal. And sometimes I would do a morning activity, and instead of going downstairs for lunch, I would take a snappy nappy. And they had a full service dining on the 3rd level, and they had these homemade spaghetti that I probably had 4 times in a 7-day period. It was that and French fries. So, who needs protein? Anyways, I digress. Sorry. So as I said, a lot of this stuff, if you are seeing this, the background is of the ship. I wanted to bring up Celebrity because they have started sailing. In the first 24 hours of doing deposits on a ship that you don't know what you're getting, sold out. So I want to make sure that you are aware of this product coming into the marketplace. But because it is so far in the future, it's 18 to 19 months away. The amount of information that we have is not a lot. It is rendered drawings. It is the idea and the understanding of what the Celebrity cruise ship is for. And it is basically a step up from Royal. It is something that is going to be your premium mainstream line. And I feel that in how they're building these cruise ships as well, these river cruises. I can definitely see how they're still attracting the mainstream clientele. So they're focused on more people on board so they can bring the cost down a little bit. They're really focused on those exclusive features like the infinity pool, like the new suites. I really do enjoy the fact that there's going to be food 24/7 and that they have all these little different pockets that you can hang out at so that you can get a different experience every day instead of having, this huge, dining room. We're breaking it up into little tiny restaurants so people can experience different things. Those are things that are nice, and I'm excited to see how they do it so that everyone, gets that opportunity to do those things. So when we're talking about what's included with the fare for Celebrity, it's going to be your stateroom, meals, a selection of beverages, including your wine and beer at lunch and dinner, Wi-Fi entertainment, and 1 shore excursion per day. So that's where they're kind of leaning towards the Viking model, where instead of having all of the excursions included, they're only doing the 1 shore excursion per day. And they are going to have extra costs, so the premium drinks beyond the typical package. And they're also going to have premium shore excursions, those are going to be extra costs on top of the trip. So it is inclusive and it follows the typical river cruise standards, but you are going to have things that will cost extra when you're on board. So be like prepared mentally for additional things. Like if you want something more than just a walking tour in each city, if you are wanting to do, those cocktails, those things outside of that typical dining period. And that's with most of them. If you're wanting the all inclusive, it's going to be, scenic, Uniworld, Riverside and things and talc, obviously. And so how is Celebrity going to be handling their shore excursions and itineraries? They just launched in 2027 for the Danube River, and they're doing the Danube River first, and then they're going to be introducing the Rhine in December of 2027. So this is for those who really enjoy that long-term thinking, are wanting to do that. I will say that I personally would not recommend it until I was able to see a completed product. I I'm sure at this point the prices are, and when I priced them out, it is relatively expensive because it is a new product, right? It's the new thing on the market. It's people don't know what it is. They're excited because they know the brand. So things get more expensive. It's just like to chase a squirrel, I guess. It's similar to how the Royal Caribbean's Icon of the Seas, when that was released and all of the hype came out and you saw all the TikToks and the Instagrams, the price just shot through the roof. And I was doing comparisons where you could do a balcony, 7-day cruise on the Icon of the Sea, and it was more expensive than doing a river cruise, even without adding in all the extras. And so those are just things to think about when you're seeing that price. And like at this point, it's, what are you paying for? I would be interested to see like what happens in the future if the price lowers, if we start seeing different promotions, how they're going to elevate it to make it worth what they're selling it for right now. And so that's where the next question, and I answered it, was, is this cruise line a good value for money? And that's where I am not sure if it is. I think that right now it seems pretty high for the market, but it totally can change when I actually see the value of what you're getting. But right now we're in the full, like, what is this? And I will also say that if you are in the first year of doing it, you also have to be prepared that it's a learning curve, right? You have to be a little bit more flexible on what you're doing. You have to kind of understand that they, are building in certain things or understanding, this new market because they don't have the same resources in these small little towns for excursions as they do for the Mediterranean. I'm not saying that they can't get it pretty easily, but it's just, when the first year when you're ironing out all of those kinks. So if I could say there was one thing that this cruise line could improve on based on what I've listened to a couple of, celebrity leadership talk about it, I've been doing a lot of research. I am disappointed they don't have a salon on board. I am definitely someone who enjoys getting my massages, and the fact that they don't have one and they're still trying to be in that premium class just feels like a waste of space because it doesn't take more than 50 to 100 square feet to add one massage room because you only need one, right? But I definitely think it's a miss on how they're how they're determining what gets what space and what doesn't. They do have a gym, and that's not my priority. I would prefer the massage over the gym because also you're walking, you're exploring every day. I don't see that being a need. But that again is where my priorities lie versus where other people's. So that is where it'll be interesting to see how they start building that out, what everything is going to look like. I think that the renderings look absolutely gorgeous, and I can't wait to see when it becomes more of a finalized product to see that whole piece. So, does Celebrity live up to its hype and marketing? What's been publicly announced looks really cool. The design, the deck space, I really enjoy the flexible dining. I don't like how many people are on board the ship. I think for what they're trying to sell it as, I would have expected it to be more 150 people versus 178 because It doesn't seem like a lot, but we're talking about 28 more people on the same size ship. These are not something where it's like, oh, Scenic's going to be a different size than this one. 99% of all of these ships are the exact same size. And so the only two ships that are different is going to be the Ama Magna and then the Riverside Mozart. And those are double wides, and they can only be in certain areas because they can't get through certain locks. So I am interested to see what they decide to promote as that celebrity inclusive nature, what they're keeping from their ocean products, and how they're going to elevate it in a pretty crowded marketplace now. I was talking to another travel advisor on how many cruise ships are now coming into the river space, how Viking just announced their 100th river cruise this week. They did the, you know, glass breaking for it, the christening. There's the word. The christening for their river cruise. So it's just interesting to see who's out there and when are we going to get to the point where it's too much. I think what we're seeing now in the river cruise space is that people are going to different ports. If you were listening to my episode with Amsterdam, that we're now going to be seeing a lot of people change where they're starting or ending their cruises on the Rhine and how that's going to affect where they start, where they're going, and kind of building in more stops that weren't as popular before. And so I'm excited about that piece. I'm hoping that we can see new cities. I am doing the Rhine for the Christmas markets this year, and I did the Rhine last year for the what is that word? Was for the Tulip Festival. And of the two trips, there are two stops that are the same, three stops that are the same. The rest of them are different. And so I'm very excited about that because I'm getting able to experience a different part of the Rhine. And then my friend and I, which I'm going to be doing a come along with me for on Avalon, and that's going to be doing the Rhine and the Moselle. And with that, when I compare them, it's three ports are the same and four ports are completely different. So that's talking about doing the Rhine 3 years in a row. And of that 3 years, I'm seeing 3 to 4 new ports each time, even doing the exact same river. So these are where you can say you've done the Rhine, you could check the box, but you can also get really excited and you can see different ports with different cruise lines, with different itineraries. So there are a lot of options out there as well. So behind the scene factors, what makes Celebrity stand out. This is a major strategic move for Celebrity and its parent company, Royal Caribbean. Most of the time, they've been into the major cruises. And so it'll be interesting to see when they branch out into the European river cruise market, what they're expecting as their return on investment for the fact that it's smaller cruises, smaller cruise ships, instead of having, 3,000 to 6,000 people per week. It's 178 at max capacity. They aren't going to be getting the revenue from casinos and things of that nature. So understanding, and that's something on the back end that I will probably never know, is what is the return on investment for it and how much money they're actually making per week. We'll never know. But as I chase the squirrel, that's where my brain went. They are, working with a Netherlands shipyard, and they have already created the market investment, and they are signed up for 10 ships. So the first two, again, are in 2027. The first one is August 2027 on the Danube and December 2027 for the Rhine. So those are the things to think about there. And anything new or noteworthy, just to kind of, as we've talked about right now, is that you can now start booking for 2027 for the debut sailing. Demand is very strong, and they sold out of the pre-bookings, and now they've released it for the additional pieces of it. So you can still book it. I would, if you reached out to me, caution. Not all the cruise lines have released 2027 yet. I know there's a couple of people that I have quotes on hold because we're waiting for certain lines to release 2027. But it is an option if that is what you are looking for. If you are a hardcore branded person and you're like, I went on Celebrity, I love Celebrity, then you are going to love this river cruise company. If you are someone who is not set on Celebrity, I would recommend waiting to see how the brand does on the water and to see what it looks like, because I'm always skeptical of, or no, not that I'm skeptical, because I've done a lot of cruise ships in their maiden year, but I go into it understanding that there's probably going to be things that will be different once they get their footing around them, once they learn how to do these certain things, once these like routines are set up, and they do have the backing and they do know cruising very, very well. But it's just, I think, scaling to size and how that looks. And there's still going to be a couple of wrinkles. That's just life. That's just part of traveling. I just did Toastmasters tonight, and the theme of the night was boo to full mess. And so in Toastmasters and in table topics, it was like, what did this failure teach you? What, if you were to admit to a failure of your childhood, what was it? And, how did you learn from it? So I think that there will be some things that they learn from. I still think that it's going to be a great product. It'll be interesting to see how it sets up when we see it and when people start selling and how they judge it to whatever. My pros for Celebrity, as just like a quick thing, is I think the infinity pools are really cool. I'm really excited to see how they're going to do the all-day dining and how they're going to shape the ship so that it has the 8 food and drink areas. And I like the fact that they have 5 different room types. I'm curious to see what they actually look like and if they're going to be more of like a one, room type A is on the 2nd floor in a balcony and room type B is on the 3rd floor in a balcony, but it's the same thing. That's not really 5 types. So that will be interesting to see how that actually plays out and what that looks like. Things that I am worried about, or things that would based on the price of the product and what the value is, 178 people on board is on the higher end, and the fact that it only includes one shore excursion, I would expect it to be priced more towards Viking, even though it has the name of Celebrity. And that is something that I take into consideration as I would recommend it to a client or who I would recommend instead. Because right now they're pricing pretty much at the same level as Scenic and Uniworld, and that's going to be a more all-inclusive product at the moment. I say this in October 2025. If you see, I am wearing my I have Halloween sweaters for the entire month, and I have some for Thanksgiving too, so watch out, and Christmas, obviously. But those are just my high-level thoughts. They are my own personal opinion on what I think about Celebrity at this exact moment. I will come on here and admit that I will admit to eating my words if I see these new renderings or when I go on board the ship in 2027, that it is a completely different product than what I expected it to be. Because the one thing I want to do here is be honest, because I want you guys to trust me and with your vacations and with your river cruising experiences so that I can try to find the right river cruise for you, which is why we're doing this series. And so I wanted to say thank you so much for listening to me ramble tonight. I hope you have a wonderful day and that you have a great time sailing anywhere that you actually want to go. Got to work on my outro line. But happy Halloween if I don't talk to you before then.